In 1963, the most powerful car company in the world offered to buy Ferrari for around $10 million. It would have made Enzo Ferrari an extraordinarily rich man. The paperwork was almost ready, and then, at the very last moment, Enzo stood up from the table and walked away, over a single clause about who would control his racing team. That decision would trigger one of the most famous rivalries in the history of sport, and it tells you everything about the man. Enzo Ferrari did not build cars to get rich. He built cars to go racing. Everything else, the money, the road cars, the empire, even his own family, came second to that one obsession. And that obsession cost him almost everything. The Italian press once called him a modern Saturn, the god who devoured his own sons. His beloved heir died young, his marriage shattered, his drivers were killed on the track, one after another. And in the end, the fiercely independent man who walked away from Ford was forced to sell control of his company to Fiat, the very company that had rejected him as a young man. This is the story of how a poor boy from Modena built the most desired car brand on earth out of pure, relentless obsession, and how that same obsession slowly buried the man behind the myth. It comes in three parts: the racer who would sacrifice anything to win, the empire built on speed and grief, and the loss of control that ended the Ferrari family's independence forever. If you enjoy these rise and fall stories, take a second to subscribe and hit like. It genuinely helps this channel dig up more of them. Now let's go back to Modena at the dawn of the 20th century. Enzo Ferrari was born in 1898 in Modena, in northern Italy, the son of a man who ran a small metalworking business. From boyhood, he had one dream, and it was not engineering, and it was not business. It was racing. He wanted to be a race car driver, but tragedy found Enzo early, and it would never really leave him. During the First World War and the flu pandemic that followed, he lost both his father and his older brother, also named Alfredo, nicknamed Dino, within a short time. Enzo himself fell gravely ill and was discharged from the army, and for a while it looked like his life might amount to nothing. He went to Turin looking for work, and he applied to the biggest car company in Italy, Fiat. They turned him down. It was a small humiliation at the time, but hold on to it, because that rejection would echo across his entire life, and the wheel would come full circle in the most ironic way imaginable decades later. Rejected by Fiat, Enzo found work delivering car parts, using the job to network his way into the motoring world. And soon he got what he wanted, a job as a racing driver, first for a small company, then for one of the giants of the age, Alfa Romeo. Enzo was a good driver, but not a legendary one. What he was truly great at was something else: organizing, motivating, and leading. He understood cars, he understood men, and he understood how to win. In 1929, he founded a racing team called Scuderia Ferrari, the Ferrari stable, to run cars for Alfa Romeo. And he chose an emblem that would become one of the most famous symbols on the planet: a black, prancing horse on a yellow shield. The horse had been painted on the plane of a fallen Italian war hero, and the pilot's mother told Enzo it would bring him good luck. He took it. The prancing horse was born. Then, in 1932, came the event that shaped the rest of Enzo's life in two ways at once. His son was born, Alfredo, whom he nicknamed Dino after his lost brother. Enzo adored him, and partly because of the child, he made a promise to his wife and gave up his dangerous career as a driver to focus on managing the team. But almost immediately, the baby was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, a cruel, incurable disease. From the very beginning, the son Enzo was grooming to inherit everything was living under a death sentence. Enzo would spend years desperately importing medicines and diets from around the world, trying to save him. It would not be enough. By the late 1930s, Enzo's relationship with Alfa Romeo had soured, and they parted ways, with a bitter condition. He was forbidden from using the Ferrari name on cars or racing for several years. So he founded a new company under a different name and survived the Second World War building machine parts. His factory was moved to a small town called Maranello to escape Allied bombing, though it was bombed anyway and rebuilt. And when the war ended and his non-compete expired, Enzo Ferrari, now in his late 40s, finally did the thing he had waited his whole life to do. In 1947, he built the first car to carry his own name, the Ferrari 125S. The legend had officially begun. And here's the crucial thing to understand about how Ferrari made money, because it's the opposite of every other car company. Enzo did not build road cars because he wanted to sell luxury cars. He built and sold road cars to ordinary rich people purely to fund his racing team. The Scuderia was the whole point. The gorgeous, expensive Ferraris sold to film stars and playboys were, in Enzo's mind, just a way to pay for the next race. He is even said to have grumbled about his own customers. Racing was the soul. The business was the fuel. Remember this because this single obsession is both the reason Ferrari became a legend and the reason Enzo would eventually lose control of it. Throughout the 1950s, that obsession paid off spectacularly on the track. Ferrari became a dominant force in the brand new sport of Formula One and in endurance racing. The prancing horse won championship after championship. The name Ferrari became synonymous with speed, danger, glamour, and Italian passion. Sales of road cars more than tripled through the decade. Enzo Ferrari was building something the world had never seen, a car brand that was pure emotion, pure desire. To own a Ferrari was to own a piece of victory itself. But the glory came soaked in blood and grief, and this is the dark heart of the Ferrari story. In 1956, at the peak of his rising fame, Enzo's world collapsed. His son Dino, the heir, the boy he had fought for 2 decades to save, who had studied engineering and even worked on Ferrari designs, died at just 24 years old. Enzo was shattered in a way he never recovered from. For the rest of his life, he dressed in dark colors, and he visited his son's grave nearly every single morning before going to work. The future of the Ferrari family, the son who was supposed to inherit it all, was gone. And the death did not stop with Dino. The racetracks of that era were killing fields. Ferrari's own drivers died at a horrifying rate, a series of talented young men climbing into his cars and never climbing out. Then in 1957, a Ferrari lost control during a road race called the Mille Miglia and crashed into the crowd, killing the driver, his co-driver, and around 9 spectators, several of them children. Enzo was put on trial for manslaughter. He was eventually acquitted, but the Italian press had already delivered its brutal verdict. They cast Enzo Ferrari as Saturn, the ancient god who devoured his own children. The man was building the most beautiful cars in the world, and everywhere around him, people were dying. Think about the psychology of this. Enzo had lost his father, his brother, his heir, and driver after driver. He built a wall around himself. He became famous for being cold, manipulative, and unknowable, deliberately making visitors wait for hours, signing everything in purple ink, wearing dark glasses, hiding behind a mask. He once said that most people thought he was hard, but that was because he didn't want anyone to know him. All of that grief poured into one place, the machines. The cars became the thing he could control when he could control nothing else. And that need for total control was about to collide with reality. Because here is the paradox that would bring the empire down. Ferrari was a legend on the track, but as a business, it was fragile. Racing is astronomically expensive. Winning Formula One and endurance racing at the same time, year after year, drains money faster than a small company selling a few hundred cars can ever replace. By the 1960s, the costs of competing were spiraling out of control, and Ferrari's finances were in genuine danger. And that financial weakness set up the two most famous business moments of Enzo's life. The first was Ford. In 1963, the Ford Motor Company, desperate to win at Le Mans and to inject some glamour into its image, came calling with an offer to buy Ferrari. For a company bleeding money, it should have been a lifeline, and the deal was nearly done. But when Enzo read the fine print, he saw that Ford's headquarters in Detroit would ultimately control his racing program, how much he could spend, when he could race. For Enzo Ferrari, that was unthinkable. The racing was the one thing he would never surrender. He walked out. He said in effect that he refused because he would lose his identity and his reason for living. Henry Ford II was humiliated and enraged, and he did something extraordinary. He ordered his company to spend whatever it took to crush Ferrari on the track. The result was the Ford GT40 and one of the greatest rivalries in motorsport history. Ferrari had won Le Mans 6 years in a row. Then Ford's machine beat them, winning Le Mans 4 straight years from 1966 to 1969. On paper, Enzo lost that war. But here's the twist. Losing to Ford only made the Ferrari myth bigger. The story of the proud Italian who told the American giant no and then went to battle against overwhelming force became part of the legend. Ferrari the brand grew more desirable than ever, even as Ferrari the business kept sliding toward the edge. Because walking away from Ford solved Enzo's pride, but not his money problem. The company was still burning cash it didn't have. And so, in 1969, Enzo Ferrari made the decision that ended his family's independent control of the empire he had built. He sold 50% of Ferrari to Fiat. Yes, Fiat, the exact same company that had rejected a young, desperate Enzo Ferrari for a job half a century earlier. The wheel had come full circle. The giant that didn't want him now owned half of the most glamorous car brand on the planet. For a reported sum that by today's standards was almost nothing, Enzo handed control of his company's road car business to Fiat. But being Enzo, he negotiated to keep personal control of one thing above all else: the racing team, the Scuderia, until the day he died. That deal saved Ferrari as a business. Fiat's money stabilized it and allowed it to grow. But something had changed forever. The Ferrari family no longer controlled Ferrari. Enzo remained the president and the soul of the company for years, stepping back from some duties in 1977, but never letting go of the racing. He kept choosing his drivers personally, kept ruling Maranello like an aging king, right up to the end. And the tragedies kept coming. His beloved driver Gilles Villeneuve was killed in 1982. Another young man lost to the sport Enzo could never quit. Enzo Ferrari died in 1988 at the age of 90. And with his death, the last thread of family control snapped. Fiat expanded its ownership to 90%. The man was gone, and the company passed almost entirely into corporate hands. For a while, it wobbled. Fiat pushed production up for volume, unsold cars piled up, and the brand's precious exclusivity started to fade. It took a new leader, Luca di Montezemolo, to cut production, restore the scarcity, and rebuild the myth in the 1990s and 2000s, bringing in the dream team that won championship after championship with Michael Schumacher. And here's the final irony, the one that would have astonished the poor boy rejected by Fiat. In 2015 and 2016, Ferrari was spun off and listed on the stock exchange as an independent public company, trading under the ticker RACE. Today, Ferrari is worth more than Ford, more in fact than almost every other car maker on Earth, despite building only around 14,000 cars a year. The brand Enzo created purely to fund his racing habit became one of the most profitable luxury companies in the world. But it is owned by shareholders now, not by a Ferrari running it from the heart. Enzo's son Piero still holds a stake and a title, but the family that ran Maranello with an iron obsession is gone from the driver's seat. So let's count what Enzo Ferrari won and what it cost him. He built the most desired car brand in history, a name that means speed, beauty, and victory to the entire world. He created a symbol, the prancing horse, recognized everywhere on Earth. But the heir he groomed died at 24. His marriage collapsed. Driver after driver died in his cars. He was branded a devourer of his own sons. And the fiercely independent man who told Ford no was in the end forced to sell control to the company that had once rejected him, watching from the top as his empire slipped out of his family's hands. So let's go back to that table in 1963, to the proud man standing up and walking away from $10 million over a single clause about racing. That was Enzo Ferrari in a single image. He would sacrifice money, comfort, partnership, almost anything, but never the racing and never his control over it. That obsession built something immortal. It also isolated him behind a mask of grief and made his life a long procession of funerals. He got the legend. He got the prancing horse on the wall of every dreamer's bedroom. He just had to give up nearly everything else to get it, including, in the end, the company that bore his name. That is the rise and fall of the House of Ferrari, an empire forged from pure obsession, haunted by death, and lost to the very rival its founder could never forgive. Because here's the truth this channel keeps digging up. Sometimes the same fire that builds an empire is the fire that burns the builder alive. Enzo Ferrari won immortality. He simply paid for it with almost everyone and everything he loved. If you made it this far, subscribe and hit that like button. There are plenty more empires built and buried, and we dig up a new one every time. Thank you for watching.